What I'm about to do is going to humiliate and destroy my wife Charlene and her little lover boy. She should know that I will not tolerate a cheating wife. As we approached my house, my plan was about to be set in motion. It was going to be a rough afternoon for Charlene and Howard. You just don't fuck with Bubba. Let me back up and get you caught up on how we got to this situation. My name is Bubba Clarence Jones. Everyone calls me Bubba, at least they are better. Anyone call me Clarence? Well, let's just say everyone knows better. Charlene is my wife of 20 years. We are both 42 years old and have been together since we were 12. We have never had a date with anyone else but each other. We were junior high and senior high sweethearts. I was captain of the football team and Charlene was head cheerleader. We were the perfect couple. We got married as soon as we graduated high school. We live in a mid-sized town in the middle of Texas oil country. I got a job as a roustabout with a drilling company. Charlene became a stay-at-home mom. We had a couple of kids right away. Charlene is as beautiful a woman as you will ever find. She is tall, maybe about 5 foot 10 inches. I love those long legs of hers, especially the way she wraps them around my waist. I got a vasectomy so we wouldn't have to worry. Now I don't want to brag, but I'm pretty damn good with sex. I have seen Charlene's eyes roll to the back of her head with orgasms that make her scream. Of course, she does the same for me. Even after all these years together, we still do that, which makes it so hard for me to figure why she cheated on me. After our kids entered junior high, Charlene decided she wanted to get a job. She went to a junior college to become a paralegal. She then got a job with a local law firm that specializes in oil and gas leases and other oil-related issues. A couple of years before that, I started my own business. It was an oil well site prep company. There was very little competition in Texas. It didn't take long for my business to take off. I started making pretty good money, so we moved out of our trailer and built a real nice house in a very nice neighborhood. We are doing well financially, and Charlene really enjoys her job. My business requires that I travel some because my company works in Texas, New Mexico, and some of Louisiana. I told you I was doing well. I never really worried about Charlene while I traveled. She worships the ground I walk on, but I guess she got an itch that needs scratching. About 4 months ago, Charlene's law firm hired this guy about 30 years old right out of law school. He was young, very good looking, but married with 2 small kids. His name was Howard Bishop. Charlene went on and on about how smart and how wonderful he was. I met him at the firm's Christmas party last month. I could tell he thought his shit didn't stink. He treated me like some oil roughneck or something. Truth is, I could buy and sell him in a heartbeat. Charlene was drinking and hung around him all night long. She danced quite a few dances with him. I could tell his wife was not really happy either. I still figured Charlene was just drunk and let it go. Besides, when we got home, Charlene fucked the shit out of me. She was so horny I could hardly keep up. But of course I did. I asked her if she had the hots for this young lawyer. She just laughed and told me I was crazy. The only man she had the hots for was me. She said, "Bubba, you're the only man I have ever had or will ever need. Besides, I know you would never cheat on me and you would not put up with me cheating on you." It was about 2.5 weeks ago, while I was out of town at a job site, that I got a call from one of the workers from the shop. "Bubba, this is Earl. I'm in the alley in back of your house, and there is this fancy BMW car parked near your house. You didn't buy a BMW, did you, Bubba?" "Hell no, Earl. Have you ever known me to drive anything but a damn pickup truck?" "No, I didn't think so, Bubba. The car sure looks like it could be at your house. If Charlene has a girlfriend over, why did she have her parking back? It looks a little fishy, Bubba," Earl said. "Earl, what color is the car?" "It's red, Bubba." "Wait a minute, I think I remember that new lawyer driving away from the party in a red car." "Earl, I want you to park where he won't notice you and see if a guy comes out of my house to that car. Call me back when you find out something." Earl did as I instructed and used a pair of binoculars so he could see the back door to my house. It was about 45 minutes later when Earl called back. Bubba, I hate to tell you this, but a fancy-looking young guy came out your back door. I could make out Charlene standing just inside the door. Bubba, she was wearing her robe, and it's the middle of the afternoon. That fucking bitch. If she is fucking around on me with that little prick, she is gonna regret the day she was born. He's not gonna be worth much either when I get through with him. You don't fuck with Bubba. I got home the next day, then drove over to Midland to this spy store a guy told me about. I had to get the goods on them before I did anything. I bought this bedroom spy cam that looked like an alarm clock. Charlene would probably not even notice it. It was motion activated. I also bought some software that allowed me to listen to her phone calls. When her phone would ring or she made a call, I could hear it on my phone. I don't know how the fuck it works or care. I just want to know what she is doing. The camera would record anything in the room as soon as someone walked in. If they did it again, I would have the goods on them. I got home that evening and decided to see if Charlene would submit to my advances. Not that I wanted seconds, but I just wanted to see her reaction. She said she was too tired and not in the mood. I think I had my answer. Sunday night, I announced I was going out of town again for a couple of days. She acted disappointed, but I don't think it was sincere. I kissed her goodbye the next morning and left. As soon as I left, she called Howard. She told him I was going out of town again. He told her they would get together that afternoon. He would park in the alley again. As much as I hated to do it, I had to let them go through with it. I needed the evidence. It was beginning to dawn on me that my marriage was probably over. I did go to a job site about 100 miles away, then spent the night in a motel. I got drunk that night. I also found myself crying as I tried to sleep. The next day I came home while Charlene was at work. I checked my recording device to see just what it recorded. I hoped for the best but expected the worst. I downloaded the recording to my laptop. The recording showed Howard and Charlene in our bed. The quality of the video clearly identified them both. I didn't think Howard was as good as me, but she seemed to like it. It was now obvious my marriage was over, but not before a little payback. I could hear their conversation as they were getting dressed. Charlene, you are one hell of a good fuck. I wish my wife could fuck like you. She won't even give me a blowjob. Howard said, thank you, Howard. You're not bad yourself. Charlene said, yeah, I gave you a good one, baby. I bet it was better than that redneck husband of yours. Howard said, now, Howard, don't you ever say anything about Bubba. I love Bubba with all my heart, and he is one hell of a lover. He is a good husband, a good father, and makes me very happy. She said, then why did you agree to allow me into your bedroom? Howard said, Bubba and I have been together since we were 12. I've been fucking him since we were 16. I've never been with anyone but Bubba. I guess I was just curious, Howard, and you were so charming and attentive to me. I guess I just had this itch and I wanted you to scratch it. You are very educated and sophisticated, and I wanted to see what it was like. Also, you're 12 years younger, yet you still find me attractive and sexy. She said, well, you are one hot lady, Charlene, even though you are older. How long will we keep this up? He said, I know one thing, Bubba can never find out. If he does, he would kill us both. So I think this should be it, she said. Come on, Charlene, just one more time. Let's do it one last time when he leaves again, then we will never do it again. Beach will have been scratched, and I will never ask again unless, of course, you ask me. Remember, I am married too, and I know my wife would take me to the cleaners if she found out. Howard said, I don't know, Howard, I hate to risk it for very long, but I guess one last farewell fuck would be okay. I'm sure Bubba will have to leave again later this week. If he does, then we will make this last one a good one. She said they left the room and the camera shut off, so it was just an itch that needed scratching. They weren't in love or anything. It was just a case of lust. I've had a few itches over the years, but never once did I even come close to scratching. They were about to find out. You don't fuck with Bubba. I went back to the shop and waited for some of my boys to get in. I needed some help on this. I had an idea that even amazed myself. I called Earl and told him to get Leon and Tiny and meet me at the shop. These were 3 big oil men. Tiny was the biggest. He was about 6'6", weighing about 320 pounds. They were also very loyal to me and would do anything for me. When they arrived, I sat them down and explained everything. They couldn't believe Charlene could do that to me. After I told them about the videos, they all jumped up saying they wanted to see it. Bullshit. You assholes just want to see Charlene naked. Just take my word. She did something with that fancy lawyer she should not have done and will soon wish she hadn't. Boys will be boys, I guess. After explaining what I wanted them to do, they left laughing about how much fun this was going to be. That night, I tried to be as normal as I could. I even made a move on Charlene. I just wanted to see how she reacted. Just like the last time, she said she wasn't in the mood. She probably was worried I would notice something. I told her I had to leave overnight again day after tomorrow. She just shrugged and said, okay. The next day I drove to Midland to meet with this lawyer I knew about. We drew up the divorce papers and also prepared the lawsuit I would be filing against Charlene's employers. His representative would be on hand the next day when we surprised Charlene and Howard. Everything was set. Let's see if they have that one final fling. That night I was very quiet. I guess I felt pretty sad about the end of my marriage. Charlene even asked if anything was wrong. I just told her I wasn't feeling real good. So just turned around and slept. So that leads me up to where I started this story. Everything was in place. Earl and Leon were in my truck with me. Earl had the rope, duct tape, and 2 sturdy chairs as I instructed. Tiny was in the company truck and trailer with the giant forklift in tow. Tiny was a great forklift operator. I drove by the alley to make sure Howard was there. Sure enough, there was his BMW near the back of my house. I instructed Tiny to park down the alley, then bring his forklift to Howard's car. He was to move his forklift in place, then wait for my signal. I drove back to the front of my house but did not park directly in front. I got out of the truck. Earl and Leon followed with the chairs, rope, and duct tape. When we got to the front door, I called Tiny and told him to proceed with his part of the plan. While we made our way inside the house, Tiny used his forklift to carry Howard's little BMW down to the community pool at the end of the block. It had a gate just wide enough for the forklift to fit through. Tiny used his bolt cutters to cut the lock, then proceeded to place Howard's car in the pool. Meanwhile, we made our way upstairs to my bedroom. As we approached, we could hear noises coming from inside the room. As I peeked through the half-closed door, I saw Charlene riding Howard cowgirl style. I had caught them right smack dab in the middle of fucking. I motioned to Earl and Leon to get Howard first. They were to tie him to the chair, then duct tape his mouth. After Howard was secured, Charlene screamed, "Bubba." "Oh God, no. Baby, I can explain." "Bubba, I am so sorry. Please don't hurt Howard." They tied Howard up as I instructed. Then they tied Charlene to the other chair but did not tape her mouth. I knew they were staring at my naked wife, but what the hell, she won't be my wife much longer. They took Howard down to the back of my truck and set him up in the pickup bed. Then they secured his chair to the headache rack. I pulled up a chair and sat down in front of Charlene. She was crying and kept saying, "Bubba, I'm so sorry. I did a stupid thing, and I'm so sorry. Charlene, I just want to know why. Am I a bad husband? Am I a bad lover? Why would you do this to me, to us, and to our family?" I asked with tears rolling down my cheeks. "Bubba, I know this looks bad, but I still love you so much. Howard was just a little fling that meant nothing. This was the last time we were going to get together, I swear. I was just curious about what someone like him would be like in bed. He made me feel good about myself, but he is nowhere near the lover you are. It may have just been a little fling to you, Charlene, but you have hurt me pretty bad. We've been together a long time, and you had to go ruin everything for a little fling." I said, "No, Bubba, you have to forgive me. I will do anything. It was just an itch I needed to scratch. I'm sorry you found out. I never wanted to hurt you." She said, "Charlene, I've had an itch every now and then, but I didn't scratch. I have always been faithful to you. I have always worshipped the ground you walk on. Then you go fuck some younger, smooth-talking lawyer and in our own bed. I'm sorry, Charlene, but this is unforgivable." I could see Earl and Leon waiting outside the door. Charlene was still crying and pleading with me as I put the duct tape on her mouth. We carried her downstairs and placed her in the back of the truck next to Howard. I secured her to the headache rack, then looked at Howard. I could tell he was scared shitless. There were tears rolling down his cheeks from fear. I said to both of them, "You are about to experience some of the humiliation I feel right now. I don't know if you ever read or saw the movie, The Scarlet Letter, but you are about to experience it firsthand." I looked right at Howard and said, "You should know better than to fuck another man's wife. I don't think you will ever do it again after today." I placed a sign around both of their necks. He said, "I cheated on my husband. I put a big sign on both sides of the truck. It said adulterers. It was painted in red. We drove downtown, and as we drove around, I started honking. People were pointing, some looked horrified, others were laughing, and some were disgusted by the display. We pulled up to the law firm offices Howard and Charlene worked at. I honked until several people came out, including the senior partner. I got out of my truck and walked over to him. I thought you might like to see what two of your employees were doing this afternoon during their lunch break." At the same time, the representative of the law firm I hired walked over and served him with my lawsuit. He then walked over and served Charlene with divorce papers. Of course, she was tied up, so I untied one arm so she could accept them. I then tied it back and told Charlene I would hold him until we got to her parents' house. She went nuts, shaking her head and trying to get me to let her go. The senior partner walked over to Howard and Charlene and yelled, "You're fired." We then drove to Howard's house. You should have seen the look on his face when we pulled in. I got out of the truck and walked to the door. When his wife answered, I explained everything and handed her a copy of the video. There were two small children behind her. I really felt sorry for her, but she needed to see her husband for what he was. Leon and Earl took him out of the pickup and placed him in the yard. She walked over with tears in her eyes and slapped the shit of him. She gave Charlene a pretty dirty glare, then went back inside. Right before she walked in, I told her that I think Howard's car slipped out of gear in the alley in back of my house and rolled into the swimming pool down at the end of the block. Howard was still sitting there when we drove away. We left with Charlene still in the back of the truck and drove to her parents' house. I went to the door, but Monroe and Mildred were already standing there. I explained the whole situation and offered them video evidence if they wanted. I made sure they knew I was not fooling around and Charlene was at fault. They looked at their daughter, then just shook their heads. Monroe said, "Bubba, we are so sorry our daughter did this to you. You have been a good husband to her and a great son-in-law to us. Is there any way that you might possibly forgive Charlene? I know she still loves you. Sorry, Monroe, there is no way I could ever trust her again. I have tried to be as good a husband as a man can be for her, and this is how she repays me. I watched her on video having sex with Howard in our own bed. Then I catch them red-handed in our own bed. No, I can never forgive that." Mildred said, "We understand, Bubba, and I guess we don't blame you." I untied Charlene and led her over to her parents. I took the tape off her mouth and she said, "Please, Bubba, I am so sorry. I promise I will never do anything like that ever again. I realize now just how stupid it was and for nothing really. He wasn't near as good a lover as you. I will do anything if you will just give me another chance." She was begging. She did look cute, standing there naked, pleading with me to take her back. I almost gave in, but then remembered you don't fuck with Bubba. "Sorry, Charlene, I just can't. I'm leaving you here with your parents. You can come get all your stuff from the house tomorrow when I'm at work. I will be in touch about the divorce. I will split everything with you, but I keep all my business. Don't try to contest anything or that video will go viral." I left Charlene with her parents. She accepted everything in the divorce petition. I kept the house and Charlene stayed with her parents. I guess I was pretty hard on her, but she made a big mistake and paid for it. I eventually dropped the lawsuit against her employer. I just didn't want to mess with it. I was mainly trying to make a point. 1 year later, I really began to miss Charlene. I had gotten over all my anger and humiliation. I didn't really date anyone, and I really wasn't interested. I had gotten laid a few times, but nothing meaningful. Mostly it was on out-of-town business trips and was one-night stands. Mildred called me up and wanted to have lunch and talk. I agreed because I wanted to find out about Charlene. It had been a long time since I even talked to her, and when I did, all she wanted to do was apologize. Mildred told me that Charlene was still living with him. She had found a new job with a couple lawyers in a nearby town. It was a couple of old men who needed a good pair of leggings. She loved the new job. Mildred told me Charlene refused to even date anyone. She had people asking her out all the time, but she refused. She was still hoping I might want her back someday. I told Mildred about how I missed Charlene and have forgiven her. It took me a while, but I finally came to grips with everything. I told her, "Now, Mildred, I am not promising anything, but I would like to call Charlene and maybe get together for a drink or something." I never actually gave her much of a chance to talk after I caught them. I was just too angry and hurt by what she did. Bubba, that would be great if you could just sit down with her and listen to what she wants to tell you. She knows she made a huge mistake, and she paid a price for it. Okay, Mildred, I think I finally can sit down and hear her out. I will give her a call. I called Charlene that afternoon and set up a time to meet with her that evening at a local bar we always used to go to. Charlene was pretty excited. Mildred called me a little later to thank me and tell me how excited Charlene felt about finally getting together with me. I arrived a little early, got myself a beer, and grabbed us a little table away from everything where we could talk. I did a double take when Charlene walked in. She looked fantastic. She was dressed very nicely. She had lost some weight and had grown her hair out like she did in high school. Every man in the place turned and stared at her as she came in. I walked over to greet her. Hello, Charlene? I must say you look so beautiful. It is good to see you. I gave her a hug. She held on to the hug for about 10 seconds with her arms around my neck. There were tears in her eyes when she said, "It's really nice to see you too, Bubba. You look pretty good yourself. I can't tell you how excited I was that you called." We made small talk for a few minutes. Then Charlene said, "Bubba, I have spent the past year trying to figure out why I did what I did. I have no excuses and I have accepted responsibility for what I did. You don't know how many nights I have cried myself asleep because of the pain and humiliation I caused our family and the fact that I lost the man I loved most in my life. I had no feelings for Howard. Yes, he was a smooth talker. He told me things I like to hear. I'm convinced he did manipulate me in a way I will never understand." She was crying a little bit now, so she stopped to get a Kleenex out of her purse. She went on, "I love you, Bubba, more than anything in this world. I would give anything to turn back the clock. I know the kids were pretty mad at me at first, but they soon realized how I regretted my mistake and have forgiven me. I think what I need most is to hear you say that you can forgive me. If you can, then I will step aside and let you move on with your life." You're right, Charlene. I was humiliated and I was so hurt by what you did. It's hard to watch a video of the woman you loved so much for so long fucking another man. I was also mad at you, which is why I punished the both of you the way I did. I'm sorry for that. It was probably a little over the top. I took a drink of beer and went on. I was finally able to come to grips with everything and realize that I could forgive you. I still love you, but I can never trust you. I can still see you with that guy in my nightmares. She was still crying and held my hand. I took her hand in mine and told her I really wanted to get back with you, but in another lifetime, and I wish that you remained faithful to me then. Tears were rolling down my eyes by now. I got up and walked out. As I reached the door, I looked back and saw her looking at me with tears in her eyes. I lifted my hand and waved the final goodbye. It was hard. My heart ached. It felt like I had knives in my heart, but I had to do this. Let's hope she learned a lesson, but most of all, she learned you don't fuck with Bubba.